guys, and welcome back to Dole a Day, a place where we talk Disney and eating disorders sometimes. But if you're here today, we're actually talking about both eating disorders and Disney, as you can see from the title of this video. So if you're watching this video, or if you saw the title of this video, and you know me, you might be a little confused. You might say, why would this person who has suffered with an eating disorder, who is such a huge fan of Disney, make a video on whether or not Disney princesses can cause eating disorders? Well, before I answer that question, let me talk to you about what I mean when I ask the question, do Disney princesses cause eating disorders? So, when I ask this question, I am referring to the representation of Disney princesses in film, particularly animated films. You know, the very traditional representation of a Disney princess with a very, slim, tiny waist, hourglass figure. That is what I'm referring to, and I am specifically talking about animated films for this video. Live action can be another conversation for another time. But if you are a part of any body positivity communities, or if you really are just on social media in general, I'm sure you at least have once seen this accusation that visually these princesses being represented as so tiny and small, kind of in the same realm as the Barbie, can cause young girls to develop eating disorders. And so because I am such a big Disney fan, I decided that this is something worth talking about. Like, should I blame my love of Disney, or should I blame my eating disorder on my love of Disney? You know, is that something that could have helped cause it? It's really something worth thinking about. So there is no short answers when it comes to me trying to ask a question. So I thought that I'd come and get on camera and just kind of talk out some of the thoughts that I had about this. So I actually, this probably isn't going to be a very popular opinion in a lot of communities, but I actually do not believe that Disney princesses cause eating disorders. Now, I say that focusing on the word cause. When you say that something causes something else, that is a pretty big accusation, right? Like if you say, my mom caused me to be a bitter person, that is putting a heavy burden of responsibility on your mom. So if I am to say, oh, Disney princesses caused my eating disorder, that is putting a very heavy burden of responsibility on Disney when it comes to young girls, and not just me, but all young girls and all people who watch these movies and enjoy these movies and look up to these characters. When you say that something causes, somebody or something causes a behavior, you're giving it a lot of power over the thing that it is causing to happen, or the person who it is being caused to affect, if that even makes sense. I hope you see what I'm trying to say there. So if I say that Disney princesses cause eating disorders, I'm giving Disney princesses a lot of power over me, over myself, over society. And yes, I agree that the cultural influence of Disney and Disney characters is rather significant in our society, like enormously significant, especially because these are a lot of the first characters that young girls are introduced to and that they look up to. But I do not believe that it causes eating disorders. And here's the thing, this is a pet peeve of mine. Eating disorders are incredibly complex mental illnesses. If somebody says that Disney princesses cause eating disorders, you're saying more about the person suffering from an eating disorder than you are about the Disney princess. And here's why. Because if someone, I'm not going to blame you because I'm not saying you, the viewer, have not necessarily ever said this, but if someone says that Disney princess causes my eating disorder, that means that they view my mental illness as being something as petty as me wanting to look like a character, a fictional character that I liked when I was a small child. And that's just not the case. Eating disorders are not sins of vanity. They're not infantile. They're way deeper than just wanting to look like a model or wanting to look like a fictional character. Now, I realize that that's not what everybody means when they say things like this, but I do want to address that because I think it is very important that people understand eating disorders never have just one cause. It's multifaceted, and that you can never blame just one person or just one thing for someone having or getting an eating disorder. When I was a child, did I ever look at a Disney princess and say, oh, I want to look like that when I grow up? Beyond the pretty ball gown dresses, no, I never did. I never thought, oh, I'm supposed to have this kind of waistline because Cinderella has this kind of waistline. I think all women are beautiful. I think all women are princesses, and I hope that all women can see that in themselves. And I also think that when little girls think of princess, they're thinking of someone who is dressed in a beautiful ball gown and you know, has their hair all fixed and is elegant and sweet and kind. And there's actually a story that I want to tell you about that. So right at the end of my treatment for my eating disorder, my boyfriend at the time took me on a trip to Disney World. And he took me during the time of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party. So that meant that we could dress up in costume to go into the Magic Kingdom. Well, I decided that I was going to dress up like Belle and, you know, make him dress up as the prince, but I decided that I was going to dress up as Belle. So I purchased this beautiful, beautiful Belle dress, a full length, everything, you know, the whole shebang. I had like a wig, I had the rose in my hand, and I dressed up in this Belle costume. Now, I personally was very self-conscious because I had just gained like X number of pounds, and I had just gained like a ton of weight in recovery in a very short period of time. So I was still very uncomfortable in my body, and I did not feel beautiful, even when I was dressed up as Belle wearing this big, beautiful, poofy dress. But we were staying at the Wilderness Lodge, and we got on the boat to go to the Magic Kingdom, and while we were on the boat, this little girl just pointed to me and she said, look mommy, there's a princess, there's Belle. And don't worry, for those of you who are Disney-philes, I did not pretend to be Belle, so I would not get kicked out of the Magic Kingdom, because I know that if you are not working for Disney, you're not supposed to act like you're the character. I did not. I just smiled and went on my merry way. But my point is, that little girl, when she looked at me, she just saw my dress. She saw that I was smiling and having a good time. She didn't look at me and think, oh, well, she's not a size, she's not like this size, so she's not a Disney princess. She just looked at the way that I was dressed and the way that I was representing myself, and she thought, Mommy, look, there's a princess. And so I want you guys to know that being a princess, being a Disney princess, is not about your size. It is about your joy and your kindness and being who you are. And I think that that's what little girls ultimately look up to when they look up to these characters. They're not necessarily looking at their size. They're looking at who these characters are and what these characters mean to them. My eating disorder grew more out of it. This sense after I graduated from school that I needed a way that I could prove my worth when I felt like I was failing at so many things in life. It was like I was trying to work towards a career and work towards relationship and work towards all these different goals, and I would work and work and work towards them, and it never went anywhere. But with weight loss, like, I could work towards that, and it worked. Like, I was, what I put in, I got out. And my eating disorder was much more related to things like that than it was wanting to appear a certain way. In fact, until very late or very far into my eating disorder, I really didn't even think about my size at all, not visually. It was more of a numbers game. And that was related to OCD, and that's another video. But anyway, all that to say that we can't put that burden of blame and responsibility on Disney princesses alone and just say that Disney princesses cause eating disorders, because that actually hurts people with eating disorders, because it says that what causes an eating disorder is something shallow and just related to looks and beauty standards, and eating disorders are so much deeper than that. Now, that being said, I do believe that the way that these Disney princesses are represented visually in art and things like that is a reflection of what society considers beautiful. And I do think that that can be problematic, this idea that beauty is a certain size. And I do think that that is a conversation worth having, although you can get into the same kind of problem having that conversation if you don't realize that alongside this beauty standard there are these other mental aspects to eating disorders. So I guess basically what I'm saying is beauty standards are up here, and mental problems, we'll just call it mental problems, whatever, are right here, and they converge together to create an eating disorder, whereas like beauty standards are up here and Disney princesses are down here, and like the eating disorder doesn't necessarily meet the Disney princesses down here as much as it meets the beauty standard that the Disney princess representation comes from down here. Hopefully that makes sense. I also want to say that people should be very careful when trying to find any kind of cause or blaming any particular factor for causing eating disorders, because everyone's experience is completely different. Whereas I personally do not blame Disney princesses at all for me developing an eating disorder. I'm not saying that that doesn't play a part in anyone's story. I have heard girls say that like Barbie dolls did influence the way that they saw themselves and the way that they thought normal bodies were supposed to look, and that led to them developing an eating disorder. I think especially maybe among younger girls, and men can have eating disorders too. So I'm not saying that they aren't a factor in anyone's experience, but I don't think that they are a cause. Basically, I don't want anyone to be under the impression that if we were to increase the waist size of a Disney princess, that we would see a decrease in eating disorders, or that eating disorders would just go away. Because I don't believe that that's the case, honestly. I think that we don't need to fight the Disney princesses. I think we need to fight the problem from up here, not down here. I think that we need to fight the mindset that leads to the creation of these characters, and that leads girls to maybe think that they're supposed to look like these characters, more than we need to attack these characters themselves. I also think that the solution lies more in education and access to resources regarding eating disorders, having education about these mental illnesses when children are in middle school, maybe even earlier, so that they can recognize if they're beginning to fall into these patterns, so that they understand what unhealthy patterns surrounding food are, and have that happen earlier, because early intervention is key in an eating disorder being successfully treated and being in recovery. Now, I'm going to ask this question, do I think that it would be a good thing to have more realistic representation in animation of a female body? Yes, of course, absolutely. I think that that is something that is necessary, something that is vital, something that would, possibly change how people feel about themselves. And I think that that is something that is worth fighting for. But I don't think it's fair to throw all these Disney characters under the bus. I don't think it's fair to blame animation for a problem that is so big and has so many factors related to it. I just don't think that that's fair, and I think that it cheapens the experiences, the real lived experiences of people who have struggled with eating disorders. Now, you know, a lot of people might feel very differently. If you feel differently, like, that's completely fine. Like I said, all people with eating disorders have different experiences, so I can only speak for me. I can't speak for everyone. If you have different thoughts about this issue, please leave it down in the comments below, and I'd love for us to chat, to have some conversation. If you have any questions, leave that in the comments below too, because I'd love to talk more about this with you. I am planning to make another video sometime soon about body image in the Disney community, especially the Instagram and YouTube communities. And if you feel interested in that topic, please let me know, because I do think that's something that I have seen in the past. I've seen some positive things come out of the Disney community in regards to body image. But anyway, I hope that you all are doing very, very well. I hope that you're staying healthy. I know there has been a rise in incidences of the virus lately, and that's really concerning, and I'm hoping that you all are making good choices, staying safe, staying healthy. The weather here has been really, really cold. I don't know if it's been like that for you guys too, but if it is, I hope that you guys are staying warm. I am out of school for several more weeks. I thought I was going back next week, but because there's been a rise in numbers lately, it turns out I'll be at home for a lot longer. So maybe we'll get some more content out of that. We shall see. But I just want to let you guys know that I really appreciate you, and I appreciate this community. Let me tell you, it's so nice to have this platform where I can, you know, get on my soapbox and just rant about something that I feel like is an issue, and have an audience who will listen and respect that I need to say these things. So thank you guys, because you guys are the other side of the conversation. When I'm talking, I don't feel like I'm just talking to a camera. I feel like I'm talking to each one of you, and you guys are the reason that I can do that. So thank you so much. I hope that you guys stay well. I hope you guys stay healthy. I know that it's possible that there are people who are struggling with eating disorders who are watching this video, or who have come across this video. So I will leave down below a link to the National Eating Disorder Association website, where you can go to find resources, and you can also find a link, the number for their helpline if you are struggling, because I know that mental illness is really the incidences of mental illness is really increasing right now, because things are very hard with quarantine and things like that. So anyway, thank you for listening to me rant today. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you next time. Have a great one, guys. Bye-bye.